It's the Kink Consultant Podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Kink Consultant. I am joined by Lana Ricco. Lana, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on. I came across your profile and I know that you've recently released your own podcast, Lana Ricco, and you have a dating show called Dating Makeover. Can you tell me a little bit more about all of the different things that you have going on at the moment? Because you seem to be doing a lot.
First of all, I have a Dating Makeover, which I highly encourage everyone to go see because it's not just educational, but extremely fun and interesting because I have different people come to my show, both men, women, gay, trans, whatever, and they just come with their dating problem and say like, Lana, what is wrong with dating? And of course, we live in LA, Orange County area, and we probably all heard about that. So it's a little bit challenging, but I just point out that there are mistakes they're making and give some quick guidance how they can fix that and what to do in order to enhance their dating experience. So if you haven't watched that, please check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
If I came on the show, right, would I tell you stories about my dating life?
Yeah,
and then you'd be like, okay, here's everything you did wrong?
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
In front of an audience of people?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But
Vulnerable.
you know what? That's the thing. I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm not like roasting. So it's not like clickbaity. I'm trying to talk to different people. I just try to fix their dating life from their point because a lot of my clients who don't come to my show, but we work one-on-one privately, they also come with their problems and challenges and they all different. They have different backgrounds. They like different things. There's also people who have different goals in dating and in relationships. What matters is that if I can give them, let's say, algorithm or strategy, what to do in order to get to the desired point in a dating.
Yes, totally. And then you recently launched your own podcast.
Yes, a lot of people just ask me to share, I guess, tips or advice on certain things, like what mistakes people making or like how-to videos, for example, why like men choose certain women and like for marriage and don't choose another like type of women and things like that. So I would highly encourage everyone to go and subscribe to my channel because there is a lot of good, useful information coming up.
Okay, you sparked my interest with the entire idea. How are men choosing who they're marrying versus who they're just dating? That's a question I want an answer to.
Well, first of all, we need to understand if that man is even want to marry because a lot of women try to chase guys who like not husband material, who never really will be married, or if they will be married, they're never gonna stay long in the marriage. Another thing, like a lot of guys, they have a certain expectations and they're looking at individual, your characteristics, your interests, but they're also looking at the qualities that are necessary for marriage. Can you be a good wife or a good mother? And majority of men actually want kids because that's a reason for the marriage for most of them. Because it is interesting that men and women actually take marriage differently. We oftentimes married for different reasons. And that's why a lot of conflicts started when you don't really realize that and you don't try to kind of like work on that. It creates a lot of drama, a lot of conflicts, and a lot of problems later on in a marriage. Like, for example, a lot of women, they say they marry for love because they want to be loved, they want to be understood, they feel secured. And so they use maybe feelings and emotions to enter the marriage. And men oftentimes, of course, love and feelings are important to them, but they oftentimes wait. Can I buy a house with this woman? Like if I have a kids, how much is all going to cost? Can I afford it? Can we afford it together? Things like that. And lots of times women, subconsciously, I think they do understand. That's why women want a more wealthier partner, because we kind of know that there will be certain problems that we will have to solve at some point. But men, oftentimes, they go into details. They think like, okay, what car we're gonna drive, what real estate she has, what real estate I have, like how we're gonna all this match up. Because I don't know if you dated the guys like who went to the serious point, and oftentimes guys even asking women like about their not just job but also about their investments. They try to assess like how well a woman is financially literate. If she gonna drive them into debt, because a lot of guys are afraid of that. When women don't think about it, they don't realize that, they get offended because they think that the guy is kind of like looking down on them and tries to diminish them. But what he tries to understand, he tries to assess if you would be a good wife.
So do you think marriage-minded men are thinking these things? Because earlier we talked about how some men want to get married and some don't. You have to find one that wants to get married. Is it a green flag if they're asking these questions? Because it might mean that they're more interested in getting married.
This is a good question, because it could be, but it could be also a red flag. It all depends on how they're asking. For example, Amanda, I can say like, okay, Amanda, what's on your 401k? Okay, let's talk about this, yeah?
Yeah.
This is the red flag.
Okay.
But if he's asking, hey, Amanda, like, are you interested in investment? Like, you have any, like, interesting, and if you say yes, like, do you have any interesting ideas? I heard that, let's say, like, nickel or, I know, aluminum is going up. Have you heard anything about that? Yeah, so that's both ways you can find out if the person really into, like, investment, if they financially literate, asking questions about budgeting, stuff like that. It all depends on how the person is asking. I recommend to talk about finances on the first date.
Really?
Yes, because a lot of people are afraid to scare their partner, but you would actually want to scare these people away, because you would scare those who are very insecure. You know what I'm saying? When you are talking about finances and your partner has serious intent, you would be a green flag for them, because they see that you know what you want, you're serious because you want to talk about like serious topics. And plus, if you're asking about finances, you're probably good at that as well. You know, because if you like drown in debt, finances is the last thing you want to talk about.
I also think we've been taught not to ask about finances because it's too personal. But then equally, I talk about coaching people to date kinky. I also recommend they bring it up on a first date, because you need to know if someone's aligned with you or not. And this is the same thing. Financially, you need to understand if you're looking for a partner who's aligned. However, what if you're looking for someone wealthier?
Well, this is a little bit different. First of all, how wealthier? It's a little bit different because you have to look at certain places. And you have to have like certain lifestyle, or at least try to mimic certain lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So for example, if you are sharing a room with like 5 girlies and you want to marry like a billionaire, still possible, but you have to do a lot of work in order to get there. If you're a woman who has her own place and who has her whole life together and who wants to meet a guy who makes 2x, like 5x, 10x, even more, it's not really that difficult. You just need to, first of all, change your behavior, change things you say on the first date, go at certain places, and don't meet people at the bars and restaurants or nightclubs. It's the worst place to meet someone.
I want to talk about mistakes. It's really interesting. I'm excited because we're both dating coaches, but in very different spaces.
Yeah.
Working with people who have different goals. But I think that there's so much that you talk about that is universal. I don't think it's really helpful to meet randomly in bars either, bars or clubs, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's a very specialized club where you're around people who share a common interest. That might make it a little bit easier. Where do you think people should be going to meet people then?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that there is no perfect spot where there's a room full of billionaires, single billionaires waiting for you, okay? I wish there would be, there is not. So place doesn't really matter that much, because you can meet a really wealthy person, a good partner, even in a coffee shop, on a beach, on a street, wherever. But I would highly recommend people to go to places where you can, I don't know how to put it, like please your interests. For example, if you have a hobby or interest in something, go there. And if we're talking about really wealthy people we want to meet, something like a golf club, yacht club, if you have in your area. And people say like, oh my God, Lan, this is so expensive. But actually it is not really, because there's a lot of public golf courses, for example, when you don't have to pay entry. A lot of yacht clubs, they require membership, but oftentimes to go to their restaurant or cafe doesn't.
Yeah.
So you can do either that, or there is a lot of museums, for example, have some sort of events or charities, and you can just show up.
Go to public places.
Definitely.
What about the dating apps?
You still can make it work, but if you're talking about like from perspective of meeting wealthy men, it will be very hard. There will be a lot of competition.
Okay.
You're much better off to make a good first impression personally. But if you just want to meet like a good guy, good partner, for women, it's very, very possible. You have to know what you're doing and not making mistakes.
What are other mistakes women might be making?
Well, where should I start? Number one, you have to understand why you need relationships, why you need a man. Because like a lot of women, when I ask them, like, and they're like, well, I want someone who is like a good partner, who is someone who will respect me, understand me. And like, wait, let's go back a little bit. Do you want to have kids? Do you want to get married? Are you looking for someone you want to solve your financial situation? Or maybe you're looking for a partner for traveling or different activities. Or maybe you're looking for some emotional support. Because oftentimes people have a need which they try to cover with a partner. And sometimes they could be solved without like men involved. You know what I'm saying?
I think that one of the examples is probably traveling or a hobby. You might be able to make a lot of friends who enjoy the same hobby.
Yeah. Or there are a lot of women, they just don't reflect on that, but they require, because maybe they had like some traumatic past or maybe not a very happy family, and they try to fill that gap with a loving person, but maybe they just need a therapy.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need therapy to start. It's a good place.
And not just to start, but I mean to kind of help you with that. Without therapy, try to find a partner who fill that gap. You have a very high chance to get into toxic relationships, which actually make things worse.
Yes, so true. Okay, so do you categorize what's valid versus not in terms of what you're looking for in marriage? Like if my answer was, I want someone to go on weekend trips with, I want a partner to go on weekend trips with, I feel that's valid because I'm like, I want to go and I also want to have sex on these weekend trips. Like I really enjoy having sex. I want to do it with the same person. I like doing other activities with the same person I'm having sex with. Is that a valid answer? Are you craving deeper intimacy and the freedom to explore your desires without shame? Do you feel nervous bringing kink up with your partner? Or maybe you're curious to start but don't know where to begin? That's exactly where coaching comes in, and I've helped countless couples and individuals navigate kink in their lives and relationships. Book your consult today at amandadames.com and let's make your desires feel doable.
Again, what do you want from this marriage? If you just want a partner who you have a good time with, but do you want to have kids with them? Are the kids more important to you? You know what I'm saying? So for every woman, it would be different answer. What I would say that if you really want to, and I agree, like sex could be important, but you as a kink coach know that oftentimes what looks like you have no capability, you can work out and make it really great intimate relationship.
100%.
And a lot of women, unfortunately, they start dating a guy and everything is perfect, but in the bedroom things don't go that well. And instead of try to kind of work it out, they just dump the guy.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yes, but it could be definitely husband material with a little bit of tweaking. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. One of the things I help women with the most is trying to either find a dominant partner or, to your point, on fixing things in the bedroom or fixing things in the intimacy department. A lot of women are looking for dominant men, especially the people who are listening to the podcast or watching. Do you have any tips or tricks for finding a man who falls on the more dominant side, especially when it comes to the world of kink or BDSM? It's a specific interest. We're not talking the alpha male types, which I'm sure you're familiar with, that kind of toxic, I'm the man, and whether or not they really act in a supportive, financially supportive or way that they're presenting, who knows? But that sort of dominant, I can take care of things, self-assurance and reliability. Let's
start with the dominant man. If both partners are dominant, it's not going to work. Dominant person, they just can't put themselves together. Like their dominance, they will always feel insecure. They always will feel questioned. They always will feel not in their own position. They always will think that there is some sort of threat to their masculinity, dominance, whatever you can call it. There is a dominant partner next to them. So if you want a dominant man, which actually, surprisingly, there is a ton of them. The only reason why women can't find them, maybe not because they're dominant, but they are either expressing themselves in a dominant way, or they say thinks or act in a way that men read it as a dominance. And you might be like the most feminine, most submissive, most kind, quiet woman on the earth. But if you act dominant, the guy will run away like after 20 minutes of you on the first date.
So lean in to your submissiveness.
Yes, but here is what it is. So a lot of women think that being submissive is just sit, look down, and be quiet and don't open the mouth. And that's what they say, like, what? I'm not going to shut myself down. But oftentimes it's just a behavior or things you say. For example, let's say, Amanda, you're on a date with a guy and he says something, he's like express opinion on something and it's totally wrong. You realize that he's like so wrong about that. He's like super wrong. What you going to do? Are you going to tell him something about that? You're going to tell him that he's wrong?
I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not, are you even saying it? I'm like getting antsy in my seat. I'm like, let me pull out some facts. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
you would, and majority of people would because, and again, this is not because you're bad or because something wrong with you. It's just how we've been raised. We've been raised that everything should be fair. You should always tell your opinion. You should always point to something when it's wrong. I'm not saying that you have to shut up and not to say anything. If you think that partner is wrong, and again, this is also important point. If person says something wrong and it is a red kind of flag wrong, if it's
like racist,
disrespectful.
Yeah. Okay. Disrespectful. Yeah. That's a good word.
Something like diminishing someone, then yes, definitely. I would even not continue with a man like that. But if he's like saying something and it's like a wrong fact, like for example, he might say like, oh, the earth is flat.
I was just thinking, let's go with the earth is flat. Yes.
Okay, again, it's your choice. Do you want to date guy who thinks earth is flat or not? For some women, it's not a deal breaker. For some are, for some not. What I'm trying to say is how you going to tell him that? It's like, oh, no, man, you're wrong. Oh, gosh. Some women get like really battling about that. They go really into details instead of just like sleep out like, oh, flat? Okay, I never heard about that. Thank you for letting me know. And then decide for yourself, is that something you can deal with or it's totally okay for you?
I have another question now because in real life, if that happened, my first question would be like, what's led you to believe the earth is flat?
Yeah,
I would want,
even
I
better,
would be so curious.
Yes,
I would ask questions. So that's okay. Okay.
But like, what? Oh gosh, please don't tell me you're one of those idiots who believe that earth is flat. Yeah, because like some people react like that.
If you're choosing just not to continue with them, it's probably the more polite thing to just be like, okay, in your head, you finish that. You're like, okay, let me finish and walk away. If you're interested in them and it's not an immediate deal breaker, maybe I always say lead with curiosity. If you're introducing a king,
like you said, why you think is that? Yeah, or what's led you to believe into this?
So that's a good way to go about it. So we're not jumping down people's throats. If we want to pursue something. What else would you say is a good display of submissiveness when you're talking to a dominant man?
Think about how you believe men and women relationship should work. Because a lot of women, especially today, they got kind of a mixed and sometimes contradictory ideals about relationships. So they want equality, which is totally fine. You want equal responsibility in relationship. But in the same time, they want men lead, men be a leader, solve problems, make decisions. We have to understand that sometimes it could create relationship when it's not like man is better and he knows better. That's not what I'm saying. But there are just like certain things which some areas where he's better and there's some areas where you are better.
And it's different for every man. And it's not like all men are better or all women are better. It's your specific relationship.
So it's equality, not that we good about everything and nobody is better in anything in our relationship. It's about like equal amount of responsibility for each partner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do completely.
I would invite women to think from that point of view. And it's okay for him to be in charge of some things because you'll be in charge of other things.
Regardless of whether you're dominant or submissive within the relationship. Yeah.
But oftentimes women believe that we have to share everything, like we have to share opinions on everything. No worse than you, like about like money, business. I know about your relationship with your mom and stuff like that. So I guess the strength in a submissive woman to step down sometimes in some of the questions, you know what I'm saying? For men, the strength of them also to keep things away. They don't engage in things which are either non-important or will be destructive. And also, I guess I would mention another thing is that how you are perceiving yourself. Yeah, how you are treating yourself compared to other world. Yeah, do you think that you're smarter than others? And again, I'm not saying that you have to be not to have any opinion on anything. Try not to express too much contempt and disrespect towards others when you're on a date.
So choose your battles.
Yes.
You choose the battles that are truly most important to you.
For sure.
And your opinion of Kanye West is unlikely to be a battle worth fighting.
But if you think in the same way about Kanye West, that will be a thing that will straighten your relationship.
That's true. Okay. So you're trying to find common ground, and you do that through picking your battles as well.
Yeah.
All right. I feel I'm learning here. I'm ready for my next first date.
Oh, you'll do great, I'm sure. Also, we have to talk about the way women look on men. I'm actually from Russia, and I moved here 13 years ago. So what really blew my mind when I came here to US is how women look down on men. Women ask me like, oh, why Russian girls are like so popular? Like they go to US and like guys go. It's just, because they're beautiful. Yeah, it's a part, but also in our culture, we've been raised to look up to men.
It is a definite cultural difference.
So, and I think men register that right away, and they just take it and get hooked to that. They get hooked. They wanna look with respect, first of all, with admiration. Yeah, and when a woman comes to date and like, tell me about yourself, whatever's there, come on, and because they're afraid to show that they're interested, because they might think like, oh, if I'll show that I'm interested, then he might think that I'm really into him, and then he will just use me. But you always the one who settles the boundaries for that. You're the one who can avoid that. But
Yeah.
I would always encourage to, if you agree on a date, come up there with all the friendliness you can bring, with all the smile, with all the...
Agree enthusiastically.
Yes, enthusiasm.
Agree enthusiastically.
Because,
okay.
yes, we all know you've been on a terrible dates, but don't bring it on your date, because that's what will make this date terrible as well.
Yes, because you don't want to bring that negative energy in from something else. This is a fresh, new date to enjoy and create something new from.
Exactly.
Okay. I do hear that like all men are this way or all women are that way. And that if you bring that into it, especially the looking down on either side. And do you think in Russia, so we have women looking up to men because they were raised that way. Is the opposite true? Do men look down on women in Russia? Is that the balance of it?
Some do, but it doesn't really work like that. A lot of people think that Russian men are so like masculine, they're like such bad guys. They always like play bad guys in the movies because that fact that women look up, that makes them feel really secure. It makes them feel like a man. And that's why oftentimes they act like a man, because they get that feeling.
It reinforces.
Their dominant position is not questioned. Their dominant position is not being in shambles. They know where they are, because they know that woman gives him opportunity to be in a lead.
Okay.
And they gladly take that role. But you know what? Again, this is, it's a culture, but also there's a lot of American men like that too. I'm not trying to diminish anyone.
Absolutely not. I didn't think, Lana, this is great, because I'm literally thinking like, this is back to basics, right? It's funny because as a manager, I used to manage people in my career. I always knew you encourage what they're doing well, and they do that more and more. You don't focus on the bad, you focus on the great things they're doing, and then that amplifies it, it magnifies it, and that is something they take on as part of their personality. You're describing the exact same thing. If you treat a man like a man and really encourage and appreciate the behaviors you enjoy and not focus on the ones you're not enjoying so much,
100%.
you the grass is greener where you water it. So if you're watering all of those good things, it'll grow more.
Yes. And if you want a dominant man, just hand him that dominance. Let him lead and see. Because some men are unable to lead, but majority actually will. But they oftentimes just don't get even that opportunity.
Interestingly enough, I also have a lot of submissive men come to me looking for a dominant woman, and that is difficult to find for a lot of people. Maybe because of some of the cultural and social things that you've even mentioned, it can be difficult in the US as well. So have you ever come across that, a man looking for a dominant woman?
I haven't, but it's actually not that difficult, I think. Because first of all, look to the woman with a strong mother, but not the one like who is pushy mother, but the strong mother from like a feminist maybe point of view. Those who worked her whole life, who raised that idea in a woman that woman can do everything on her own, that she's independent, that she can do as much as she can, who was like in a leading position in their relationship, in her marriage.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because so I would focus on that. If you go on a date with a woman, ask about her mother. First of all, ask about relationship with her mother and a woman, and ask about relationship between mother and a father and how that family structure was. And also ask about her opinion on what is the woman's place in the world. Yeah, ask about her opinion, how she see relationships.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes women, they just say they want to equal relationships, but they don't. That's why maybe sometimes they're battling with men because they want to be in charge. And again, there is nothing wrong about that. They just
Nope.
need to find right men who will be good with that. And as you said, there are plenty of men like that as well.
In both scenarios, the issue is a little bit people saying they're looking for equality, but that's not the whole story. There's a deeper level to it. When I talk about kink so openly, that's something we focus on, is what the power exchange we're looking for. But when you're also dating for other reasons, or you're meeting a vanilla partner because you care most about the family and you're hoping to have the type of intimacy that you crave, maybe it's kink, maybe it's something else. It's this balancing act. And that's why I'm loving this conversation, because I think there is so much to what you're saying of like, if your sole focus is not the BDSM and the kink, and it speaks to why are you getting married? Why are you looking for a partner? These are all really important things to factor in and sort of get honest with yourself about what you're looking for.
I think it's a step number one, get honest with yourself and try to reflect on what exactly you want, not what society tells you, what not your parents told you or your friends. Think about what you want. And step number two would be what kind of relationship could suffice that urge, suffice that desire. And when you know what kind of relationship you want, it will be much easier to find a partner who can fit into this relationship.
Okay. What happens, and this happens a lot of people, they know what they want, they're very clear about it, and then somebody comes along and they just are like, this person is perfect. Never mind the fact that this person doesn't line up with anything they want, but this person is sort of societally perfect. They are perfect on paper. How do you navigate that? Is it just being so clear on what you want, and do you discard everything that's not exactly what you want? How do you find that balance when you, I don't know, there's love at first sight and things might not line up? Well, do you believe in love at first sight? I guess is the first question.
Well, I think it's possible, but what you think the love is?
Yeah.
Very deep questions. Maybe we don't really have that much time on that philosophy going so deep, but I would say that what we talked about earlier, it is extremely important to go down and reflect what exactly is important to you. Because that's a mistake a lot of people make. They sort of know what they want, but then they find someone socially acceptable, pursue them, and then end up divorced like in 2 years. And all their friends thinking like, what happened? You've been so perfect. You've been such a great couple. He's amazing. What happened? And then you're like, how did I get myself into this? And you did because you listened social norms rather than your own desires, what's important to you. Because you can lie to yourself and try to find logical reasons why that person is good. But if he or she doesn't align with your true desires, with your true important points, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter how amazing they are. They could be just beyond perfect. It's still not going to work.
Or it could work, but you don't get to be your authentic self in that relationship.
Yes. When I say like it's not going to work, it's not going to bring you happiness.
No, it's the price to pay is too high if you can't be yourself every day in your relationship.
For sure. And that's why I say that it is important to, of course, be aware of social norms, but it's also important what exactly do you want. And if you meet someone who is like super perfect, start asking yourself like, okay, there are 5 things I want in a relationship, and just like go one by one. Can that person give me this? Can that person give me this? Can that person give me that? And if there is at least one no, and there's like really big points, I'm talking about like something really existentially important to you. And if there is at least no, it doesn't matter how awesome, amazing that person is, it's probably not going to work out.
Lana, yes, I know that is a fact. I feel like we got to the crux of this is the core of it. This is where we need to start looking for relationships, is we sit down, and I think coming up with those 5 points is really important. What matters to you is the answer for what you're looking for. Okay, you have an interesting story because you ended up engaged very soon after meeting your partner. It was like within a week? 2 weeks?
Well, what happened is that we met through friends because I was already ready for marriage. And they said, like, hey, Lana, we know the guy, he's like very good, very serious. And he has also mentioned to us that he looking for marriage. And I was like, okay. And they told pretty much the same to him. And they said, like, the only thing, he's American and he lives in the US. And I was living in Russia back then. And I was thinking, like, is that a deal breaker for me or not? Because it's a lot. I haven't spoke English at all. So I thought, like, okay, there is a lot of work I'll have to do in order for this to work out. But we start just chatting, like emails. We Skyped. That's how long it was. We Skyped.
Yes.
Maybe like 3 or 4 times. And then he just came to me. And when we actually met in person, in 4 days, he proposed me.
Wow. Did he speak Russian?
No.
Oh my gosh. So you had to deal with a language barrier.
There was a little bit, but I was much younger back then and my brain was a little bit fresher. So I actually learned quite quickly, like important points, like some basics. And of course, we use translator and stuff like that. But why it worked out, even with the language barrier, even with thousands of miles setting us apart, because I've asked him important questions. And he saw that and that didn't scare him away. Okay. It actually made him more attached to me because he realized how serious I am, how I go like deep down in relationships and focusing on important things. Yeah, I asked him about if he wants kids or not. I asked him about his financial situation, but again, not about like how much he makes, but how's he seeing budgeting, like what he thinks important in budgeting, for example, or how does he see finances into relationships, how it's supposed to work, things like that. Yeah, ask about his family. Yeah, of course we talk about music, movies, but our most important parts of conversations were the core questions. And if you don't ask them, you're just wasting time. Because sooner or later, those core questions would be asked and you're not going to like the answer. And you just realize that you're on a 5th or 6th date with a person you don't really want to be with.
And that happens a lot of people, myself included. So in these core questions, are you ever asking about people's exes? Because I think that a lot of people's past relationships help you understand how they're going to show up in this relationship.
Absolutely. And I would say probably most important part in the answer about the ex is not really a lot about them, but about how they answer. What emotions do they have? Are they angry at them? Are they like calm? Are they disgusted by this conversation? Because that tells a lot. And plus, probably most important thing, like what didn't work out? The reason why you broke up.
Yeah.
Because that tells a lot about a person. Even if he lies and like makes up the reason, because if he was the reason why they broke up and he like makes up and try to make her look bad, that also tells a lot about him.
Yeah, because there's that lack of respect.
Yeah.
Okay, my final question is, how do you know that you're ready to date?
There is no certainty because oftentimes people think that they not ready and then they boom meet person of their life, and sometimes they think they're ready but actually there is a lot of trauma inside. I would say that when you think about dating, what emotions exactly you get right after you think about that? Do you feel like frustration, like, oh, or like...
I feel excitement.
You excited? Yeah, if you're excited, then you're definitely ready to date. But if you think like, oh man, I have to like put my clothes on, I have to take a shower, there's probably something going on in your life which you have to take care of and try to reflect on that. But if you feel excitement, if you're open to that, if you really think that there's someone around the corner, that's a great news. And I think it's a good point to be.
Yeah, I think so too. The positivity and the intent is really important because if you're not positive about it, I don't know what can build on top of that.
Yeah, actually it probably will make worse because a lot of people, when they're in frustrated state, entering the dating scene, they might scare away even the good partners and without even realizing that. So that's why it's better to fix what is bothering you if there is such a thing and then already start dating.
Are you available to hire as a coach?
I would highly recommend to check out my course, 5 Dating Mistakes. And we only talk about one of them today. So there's 4 more. And I think when you check that out, I would encourage, if not me, but take advice from someone who been in a long-lasting, serious relationship so they know how to do it for themselves and they can help you as well.
That's great advice. You can find Lana's course, 5 Dating Mistakes That Keep You Single, in the show notes and get 10% off with code TKC. All of that information's in the show notes.
Only for your listeners.
Just for my listeners, yes. Thank you so much, Lana. I am really excited to dig into the other 4 dating mistakes and hopefully have you on again in the future so we can review.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekingconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.